Dramatic and for many disconcerting moments in Michigan today as demonstrators, some of them armed, began protesting at the Capitol building in Lansing. They demanded stay-at-home orders be lifted in the state. Today's Michigan Republican-led House voted against extending the order, but Democratic Governor Gretchen Whitmer says she may take other measures to keep some restrictions in place. Firearms can legally be carried inside the state's Capitol building in Michigan. Michigan State Police called the protest peaceful. Many Democratic lawmakers expressed fear. In our money lead, 30 million Americans have now filed for unemployment for the first time over the past 6 weeks. That's roughly 18.6% of the entire U.S. workforce. This, as at least 31 states will be partially reopened by the end of the week, despite the U.S. only testing about 5 million people, or less than 2% of the population. Nobel Prize winning economist Paul Romer joins us now with his plan for getting the country back to some semblance of normal in a safe way, and it starts with testing. Paul, thanks for joining us. You say to get the economy going as soon as possible, we should test everyone in the United States every 2 weeks and isolate those who test positive. How would that work?
You know, it's often easiest to bring these things down to the level where you can relate to them yourself. I had some electricians doing work on my home in New York City when the pandemic hit. They didn't want to keep coming because they didn't want to get sick from each other. They didn't want to risk getting the infection from me. My wife and I didn't want them to come because we didn't want to catch it from them. So what will it mean to recover? It will mean that we'll all be happy to go back to doing things like closing up all the open, wires and conduits in my house and getting some work done. But to get to that point, the fastest way is to have a test so that I could say, I've been tested in the last week. I was negative. My wife was tested. She's negative. The workmen can tell each other, we were recently tested. We're negative. That's the kind of thing that will give us all confidence to come back together and do some useful work. And it won't matter whether the governor says you can work or you cannot work. Unless we're confident that we're not going to get sick, we're all just going to hold back and wait.
So Admiral Jawad, the top Health and Human Services official leading the federal government's testing response, recently said, quote, "There is absolutely no way on Earth, on this planet or any other planet, that we can do 20 million tests a day or even 5 million tests a day," unquote. Your plan would require approximately 20, 25 million tests per day. What makes you think it's feasible to do what you're talking about?
I've just talked to the people in the labs that can do this work. I've wondered, has the Admiral talked to Eric Lander at the Broad Institute? Talked to anybody like J.